everyone wears many hats. I'm a lawyer, I'm also a musician, and so just to frame my remarks, I'm going to kick you the first verse of my most recent song and talk a little bit from there. So we found that since 9/11 in particular, government authorities collect information, they share it across agencies, even though the Constitution protects privacy. Transition in the White House, wait and see, they're still asserting executive secrecy. What'll it be in the Obama years? Hope for things to change, but keep the same fears, people getting caught up in these grinding gears. Freedom ain't free yet, we owe it in arrears. We got JTTFs and the fusion sensors. If our nation was a car, we done lost the fender. The Fourth Amendment, now so much ink, lost by a people who follow but don't think. Follow but don't think. Follow, don't think. You can follow or you can lead. And the American Muslim Civic Leadership Institute, as you might imagine, is about leadership. And I want to make a quick distinction between civic engagement, which our communities talk a lot about, and civic leadership, which I would propose to you is an altogether different thing. Our community around the country confronts at the moment multiple crises. We have a crisis of identity. We have a crisis of inclusion. Within those crises, however, are also presented opportunities, because if we can address those crises, if we can take the hard, self-reflective look inward and emerge from them stronger, we can be leaders not only within our individual communities, but also as a community, collectively, we can lead our society. Both the circumstances of our time, these crises, as well as the tenets of our faith, the idea that all humanity is an ummah, that all people are endowed with an inalienable dignity. The circumstances of our time and the tenets of our faith require, they demand, in fact, that we each lead as individuals in our communities and as a community, our society. I'll offer some reflections on a few different issues in which I think we are particularly poised to take leadership. And I want also just to distinguish between two different kinds of leadership. Leadership on the one hand and representation on the other. People in whom others invest their hopes and their trust can represent the ideas and the hopes and the aspirations of the people who support them. And in representing their concerns, we buy political capital. So if, let's just say hypothetically, I represented a group that was interested in transportation policy and they wanted highway funding, that would represent their views. I would gain political capital within that base. In contrast, we can choose to lead, which is when we force our supporters to take hard, self-reflective looks and consider their own preconceived notions. If in that scenario I were to lead, I'd be talking not about highway funds, but about high-speed rail, right? Taking looks at the future and inviting the people who support us and who invest in us, their hopes and their aspirations, opportunities to refine their own perspectives. Our community at this moment in history has a particularly unique opportunity to both lead in the way that usually would spend political capital, yet buy political capital within our country, by forging a unique American Muslim identity, distinct from the international Muslim identity that I think for a very long time has defined our community here in the United States. We can exercise and avail ourselves of that opportunity, however, only if we, as individuals, lead in our respective communities. And let me just present, again, a few of those possible issues on which we can do that, ranging from the easiest to ones that I think are a little more challenging. The easiest are the ones on which we as Muslims share a particular interest. You can imagine from the work I do is combating racial and religious profiling in the counterterrorism establishment. And you can imagine that that would be an interest that Muslims share. If we were to lead in that arena, we would stop infighting among ourselves about the tactics and strategies pursued by our various organizations in the pursuit of that common shared goal. Now, stepping on into another range of issues that are less easy, but I think still easy, environmental preservation and addressing climate change is an issue that affects American Muslims as much as it affects anyone else. I was privileged this week to hear from Sheikh Yasser Fazaga, who enlightened me a little bit about a perspective from which the Quran could be construed as a particularly green piece of scripture. There are many engineers in the Muslim community. How many of them are working on climate change solutions, forward-thinking solutions to the energy crisis, novel ways to treat the various kinds of toxic waste, for instance, that our communities produce? Let's look at healthcare. Muslims get sick like everyone else. There are over 40 million Americans who lack healthcare, not all of whom are poor. I'm a middle-class person. I have a Stanford law degree. I don't have healthcare. There are many Muslim doctors. Where is the advocacy for universal healthcare from within our community? If we believe that all people are endowed with an inalienable dignity, then Muslims should be at the forefront for the movement demanding health care for all of our people. That would go a long way toward shifting our position and our perception within our society and our country. Moving on into less easy still, gender. Domestic violence, let's be frank, is an issue that affects our community like many others. The opportunity to create opportunities for women who seek access to spaces that are closed to them. These are issues that our community must grapple with. We have hard questions to ask ourselves. Perhaps, or perhaps not, harder still, the cross-racial solidarity within the Muslim community. Islam in America is unique, not only among faiths, but within countries, in terms of the diversity we represent. Take a quick look around. I invite you, really, just look around the room and see how many different colors and hairstyles and clothing are represented in this room here today. And this is a tiny microcosm of our national community. Where is our advocacy as American Muslims on issues like gentrification that affect Latino and African American Muslims and non-Muslims? Where is our advocacy on racial profiling, not in the context of the war on terror, but in the context of the war on drugs? Racial profiling is not new. It existed a long time before 2001. It's been going on for centuries. Where is our advocacy on that issue? And harder yet, the question I think that we have to pose as we look at the Ummah and we consider the rights of all people, if we construe the Ummah as humanity and not just Muslims, do we love ourselves? Do we love the Ummah? Do we love humanity enough to support equal rights for all people, even those with whose lifestyles we might differ? We must lead in order to take American Islam and American Muslims into the 21st century. I'd like to just thank very briefly USC, Nadia, Bree, and Sumaya for their vision and initiative. I'd like to thank my fellow AMCLI fellows for inspiring me, our various speakers for their skills and valuable time, and all of you for being here. I look forward to continuing to advance your interests and helping keep our country free as the Executive Director of the Bill of Rights Defense Committee, which I'll be taking over next month. Thank you.